Chapter 82. Suho. Yoo Jinho was glaring at him with cold eyes. Even the name of the guild he belonged to was mentioned in his mouth. Lee Youngho's complexion gradually turned pale. No matter how the situation is, the law is supposed to be obeyed, right? As with the Reaper Guild incident these days, hunters seem to live above the law. Oh, that can't be. Absolutely not, CEO. If not, then what is it? Is it only the Hyeonmu Guild? Where did those drones come from? That Lee Youngho couldn't find where to look. It was because he was the one who put the drone in the hands of his subordinate this morning. Drones were really good. The ability to fly and control, not to mention the recording function with the ultra-high-resolution wide-angle camera, has evolved tremendously. One could even find a single strand of hair that had fallen in every corner of the house, even through the window. Since the features were so good, of course, the laws for privacy protection were also tightly made. But things have changed a lot since the cataclysm. Recently, just for the Lee Min-song issue, there were countless broadcasting drones flying all over the sky for live broadcasting. When a situation like a dungeon break struck, the hunters did not choose any specific means as long as they could hunt the beasts, be it drones or whatever. However, spying on the homes of ordinary citizens without permission was not acceptable. Chief Lee Youngho, it seems that the Hyeonmu Guild is not suitable for our company. You don't have to wait for us to contact you. Oh no, CEO, please. When you see one, you know 10. If the image of Hyeonmu Guild gets tainted even a little when our game is released later on, it will have a big impact on our sales. Faced with the danger that all of his hard work would vanish instantly, Lee Youngho hurriedly lowered his head as if he had been sentenced to death. Wait, CEO, I will apologize on their behalf. It's my big mistake that I mismanaged the guild. It seems that the desire to recruit good talent like Hunter Sung Suho was too much. Instead, I will take responsibility and set the conditions for Sung Suho. When he even mentioned Suho's name, Yoo Jinho's eyes turned to Suho next to him. Suho, they say it's the best condition in the industry. Are there any conditions you received from other guilds? But that wasn't a question in the first place. Before Suho could answer anything, Yoo Jinho's words continued. Don't contact anyone. Best in the industry or whatever, I can't possibly see our Suho being sold for a pittance like that. Rather, this uncle will set up a guild. Huh? A hunter guild? Suho made a puzzled expression at the unexpected words. That's right. In a situation where companies are developing professional baseball teams and soccer teams, why can't we just make a hunter guild? Yoo Jinho was sincere. It was an impromptu comment, but it was also one of the things that had already been brought up during their planning department meeting. The moment he finished speaking, he turned his gaze to the hunters of the Hyeonmu Guild standing behind him. Are you guys still here? His expression turned cold again. CEO, please reconsider once more. Lee Youngho desperately clings to the last rope. However, Yoo Jinho's decision wasn't just for personal reasons of them bothering Suho. You must have listened to my explanation so far. It means that single-level games are such an important business. Important business. This means that even the hunters who appear in the game should not have even the slightest taint. In that sense, the conduct of the Hyeonmu Guild is a bit precarious. Please go back. The feeling of a cold dagger flying and getting stuck in his chest. Chief Lee Youngho realized that no words were going to work anymore. All he could do was walk out with the hunters he brought with him. He had no choice but to decide how to kill the subordinate he had sent to Suho's house today. Yoo Jinho brought Suho to the representative office. All right, Suho. Now that the intruders are gone, should we discuss the current situation comfortably? The secretary brought coffee in front of the two sitting facing each other. How's your hunter job? Is it very difficult? It's well worth it. What's worth it, you rascal? Watching the news, it seems like you're living too dangerously. Even though your grade is C, how come you're working with class S and A? Aren't you overdoing it? Despite Suho's resolute answer, Yoo Jinho clicked his tongue and looked at Suho with pity in his eyes. To Yoo Jinho, Suho was a fragile kid. Sung Suho, whom Yoo Jinho has seen since childhood, was a wonderful boy who grew up with a good character under a strict father and caring mother. He didn't have that common rebellion or puberty trouble when he was a teenager. Well, his father was the strictest man in the world. He was a police officer, and he was a legend as a homicide detective, who took down all the terrifying gangsters with force. But how come? Looking at Suho's face, which resembles his father a lot, Yoo Jinho felt especially bitter. A few years ago, suddenly misfortune came to Suho's life, who grew up rich in everything. Disappearance of parents. At first, no one could accept that fact. They were a couple who had such a special relationship that they would go on spontaneous trips. But one day passed, 2 days passed. Weeks went by and they didn't come back. From then on, Yoo Jinho began to search for them by using all his connections and money. However, no matter how much he searched, no trace of the two was found. Afterwards, Yoo Jinho decided to take responsibility for Suho on his parents' behalf. Yoo Jinho was the one who actually recognized Suho's drawing talent and made him enter the art college. I didn't know that he would be accepted to Korea University, though. Was it because he was so immersed in painting? Or was it because the world was soon hit by a cataclysm, a disaster even more outrageous than the disappearance of his parents? Fortunately, Suho didn't harbor any other bad thoughts and grew up properly. How's Auntie? Your aunt? Yoo Jinho, lost in thought, couldn't help but be taken aback by Suho's sudden question. Well, she's still busy looking for your parents. Ah. At those words, Suho's expression hardened. It was natural. To Suho's aunt Sung Jina, she also had her real brother and sister-in-law missing. An immediate family member went missing overnight. Sung Jina didn't just want to sit and wait. There were times when she trusted only the police and waited. But these days, she was scouring the world by hiring secret agents and hunters. Yoo Jinho noticed that Suho's reaction was a little different from usual when he talked about his parents. What is that expression? Did you find out anything? Oh no, it's not like that. I thought it might be a good idea to focus more on finding my mother than my father. Sister-in-law rather than brother-in-law? Yes. No matter where my father is, he's also someone we shouldn't worry too much about. That makes sense. In the first place, I was looking for the possibility that the two of them went missing separately. So don't worry too much. These days, I'm assuming the possibility of getting caught up in a dungeon break and tracking it down. A dungeon break? Yes. Of course, he disappeared before the cataclysm, but according to experts, unexpectedly, even before the cataclysm, the gates may have been intermittently opened on Earth. There were investigations on that too, so don't worry too much. At that point, Suho couldn't help but nod his head. Aside from my father, the probability that my mother went missing after getting caught up in a dungeon is quite high. Suho recalled something he had heard from Beru the other day. Beru said my mother knew my father's identity from the very beginning. Besides, people who once awakened in the Forgotten Time Zone are said to have become hunters as well. Awakening was, after all, the realm of talent. If a person has a high ability to adapt to mana power, they will eventually awaken. My mother was an S-class hunter in the past, so she must have regained that power in the end. S-class hunters were able to survive even if they were alone anywhere on Earth. However, outside Earth, things would be different. In the end, dimensional rifts must be investigated. Anyway, Suho, perhaps trying to evoke the increasingly dark atmosphere, Yoo Jinho put the coffee cup down on the table and said directly to Suho, "What I said earlier is true. I'll set up a guild for you, so don't be bothered to join a strict guild." What? Uncle, wasn't that just something you said out of anger? It was a bit of an impulse, but I was planning on starting a hunter guild at our company. Yoo Jinho took out a folder and held it out in front of Suho. Hunter Guild new project. You see this? It's a project that hasn't even taken the first step yet, but I'll tell them to start right away since I already mentioned it. Oh, so it was real. The business plan was so full, as if it had been prepared in detail. Of course, your level is low, so I can't entrust you with the guild leader, but instead, I will assign senior hunters who can be of help to you. From Yoo Jinho's expression as he triumphantly shows the file, Suho thought, it's really good to have a dependable uncle, but then, he doesn't need those guys. Suddenly, Beru jumped out of Suho's shadow and glared at Yoo Jinho. Because young master has me. Yoo Jinho's eyes widened and he jumped up from his seat. Beru's eyes narrowed at that intense reaction. You bastard, you probably remember. Suho, you really? Yoo Jinho saw Beru and burst into laughter. After drawing ants every day like that, did you finally have the skill to summon ants? Did you only draw ants? At those words, Beru opened his eyes wide and looked back at Suho. He clung to Suho's head and began to shed tears of emotion. Young master, did you miss this little man so much? No, wait. Let's just say it was an instinct engraved in my subconscious. Similar to making a game unconsciously, or he has been instinctively drawing ants. Embarrassed, Suho forcibly shoved Beru back into his shadows.